You can build a successful career, find a committed partner, sit next to them on the couch, and still feel an almost embarrassing confusion. Why do I still feel alone? That lingering sense of isolation is rarely a quirk of your personality. It is a physiological adaptation, a survival strategy that your nervous system learned during childhood, practiced over decades, and eventually mistook for your actual identity. This is a blank document we call the Relational Safety Map. We are going to use it as a 4-step framework to decode those old survival strategies and disarm your modern relationship conflicts. Breaking the cycle of adult loneliness requires us to look past the surface of an argument about the dishes or an unanswered text. We have to directly map exactly how your nervous system responds to those triggers today. Step 1 is identifying your attachment adaptation. To begin, bring a specific, recurring conflict you have with someone you care about to mind. Look at this photograph. Developmental psychology shows these early relational environments create a lasting blueprint, dictating how we react to closeness and distress as adults. Our map begins with a classification tree. First is the avoidant adaptation. They survive by minimizing needs and retreating. Second, anxious, adopting hypervigilance and constantly scanning for rejection. Third, disorganized, trapped in a chaotic oscillation, pursuing comfort, then blocking it. Categorizing your specific adaptation is critical. It allows you to reframe behavior. What looks like sudden malice or indifference makes perfect sense once recognized as a childhood survival strategy acting out in the present. Step 2 is tracing the conflict trigger. When you find yourself in an argument, the overt subject is almost never the actual problem. It is merely the trigger for a historical pain. Analyze that recurring conflict you thought of earlier for what we call asymmetry alarms. Notice if your body is intensely tracking who initiated contact, who texted last, or who softened first after the tension. For someone shaped by early loneliness, a minor lapse in attention carries intense developmental weight, triggering a physical sensation of profound abandonment, transporting the nervous system straight back into an old, empty hallway where no one came. Immediately following that trigger, identify your behavioral pivot. You might suddenly start overfunctioning to earn their attention, or snap into a rigid hyper-independence, acting as though you need very little. Pinpointing the exact split second your argument shifted from the present into the past stops you from fighting a ghost. It allows you to address the actual emotional gap happening in the room. Step 3 asks you to decode the secret belief. We are shifting focus from external behaviors to the silent internal logic driving them. Prolonged loneliness forces a young mind to invent an explanation. The child creates a quiet, secret belief to logically explain to themselves why their needs are not being met. This flowchart translates surface complaints into root beliefs. They don't care masks, I must perform to exist. I don't need help links to, I am easier to love when I need less. You wouldn't understand connects to, if they truly knew me, they would leave. These beliefs rarely feel like assumptions you are making about your partner. They feel like objective reality, simply because your nervous system has rehearsed them for decades. Until you decode these hidden beliefs, you will continue performing a carefully curated role. The strong one, the funny one, the low-maintenance one. You remain socially valued, but emotionally untouched, instead of participating in an authentic relationship. Step 4 is executing safe contact. Intellectual insight alone cannot heal an altered stress response system. You can understand your past perfectly, but the repair has to be physical and relational. The first action is practicing physical grounding. The moment an asymmetry alarm goes off, recognize that your body is physically bracing against an old injury rather than the current moment. The second action is actively dropping your learned performance. You have to interrupt the familiar choreography. That means stopping the immediate urge to withdraw, to over-explain, or to test your partner's loyalty. Instead, reach out physically. Bringing actual distress to another person allows your nervous system to transition from isolated tension into physiological regulation. You execute safe contact by stating your unedited truth simply and directly. Rather than testing their attention, you say out loud, "I feel alone right now." Dropping that performance feels deeply dangerous. You are abandoning the exact survival skills that kept you safe when you were young, and that eventually formed the very foundation of your adult identity. True relational healing requires the bravery to stop purchasing love through your usefulness. It asks you to risk being genuinely, unapologetically dependent on another person. This completed blueprint represents the full process. You identify your attachment adaptation, trace the trigger, decode the secret belief, and execute safe contact. Utilizing this map shifts your dynamic entirely. You stop reacting defensively as if you are still standing in an empty childhood room, and you begin responding directly to the actual partner standing in front of you. The ultimate goal of adulthood is not to achieve flawless independence. It is not to become so perfectly self-reliant that you never need comforting. Adulthood at its best is the slow construction of a new reality. One where reaching out is no longer shameful, and where the child who learned not to expect an answer finally discovers that the room can answer back.